and I am here with a great friend and mentor of mine, and I'm very excited to have her on Heart of the Gala show. Who are you?
So my name is Jenelle. Everybody calls me the Gala Gal, and I am out of Tampa, Florida. I have been a fundraising auctioneer for more than 15 years, and I teach charities how to raise more money.
Well, Jenelle, I can tell you this, that it's not often that we get to be face-to-face.
Right.
I mean, we were very virtually connected during this whole 2020, 21, 22 fiasco. Mm-hmm. And we were a part of a mastermind group, a group of fundraising auctioneers and MCs and consultants that are there. And it's neat to finally be together and record this. I've been waiting. When we debuted the podcast, I was like, I can't wait to get Jenelle on there.
Well, I'm happy to be here. And we're both happy to be in Phoenix because we both love Phoenix.
We do. I mean, right now it's the end of May and it's really hot. I mean, you can see the heat rising outside.
That's not true. It is so nice here right now. I came from Florida, and the feeling and the weather in Phoenix is just fantastic. I just love stepping outside.
Because there's a dry heat.
Yes.
It's a dry
because it's a dry heat.
And the
it's
pool
so nice.
feels that much wetter.
It just feels lovely. It's still actually cold, but I mean, the weather's lovely here. So anyway, I'm happy to be back in Phoenix, and we're actually in Phoenix for boot camp.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Why did you come all the way across the country to Phoenix, Arizona, to another hot place? Why are you here?
So I train auctioneers in how to work better with charity, and most of that comes through this boot camp for Benefit Auctioneers class that I've done since 2008. I've done about 75 classes of that, and this was probably class number 76.
Oh my God. How many alumni of the boot camps do you have?
Hundreds. I don't know how many off the top of my head, but hundreds, all in a private Facebook group. So.
Which is a great Facebook group to be in, especially for me, because we're always sharing knowledge and we're sharing ideas, and something might work for someone, and then we can celebrate that, and then somebody else can take that and then apply that to their event. And I mean, it's all with the focus of, like what we do here, make events better.
Right. It's for auctioneers to help each other elevate their own clients and make their own events work better. And it's great that we're all across the country. I mean, I'm here in Phoenix because there are auctioneers in Phoenix who want to do a better job serving their nonprofits, and I can walk them through a process that helps them understand how to consult better, how to be better on stage, how to solve problems better for nonprofits, and that's part of what we just spent the last 3 days doing.
Yeah, talking about solutions. Mm-hmm. And that was a big turning point in my life, was after taking your class, that my story is I was an auto auctioneer for many, many years, and there was a friend of mine that was an auctioneer and said, Bobby, you have to go take this class from Jenelle. And so I Googled Jenelle up, and I'm like, okay, what is this? I didn't really know. And then I got in and I noticed and I recognized that there were people that were doing this as a career. They were doing this professionally. And that was a part of the light bulb that was going off. But there was something that it came out of that class that I remember. I ran out and I called my best friend and I'm like, dude, we're going to do this. Like, I got to build a website. I'm going to make this happen. And then we were able to work together, as my direct mentor to help me, to coach me and to help design the call to auction brand and design the website and the materials and, getting that out there. But then also best practices within consulting and helping organizations that I was identifying and working with to make them better.
And part of what I saw in you in that very first class is people have a certain energy and they have a certain essence, and what you're looking for in a benefit auctioneer is the essence and the energy that matches what you want to be the face of your fundraiser. And I tell people my gift is I see potential in people and things, and that's the first thing anyone notices in meeting you is the spark that you have.
Not the calmness that I.
And it's the hair. It's the hair and the spark is what.
Oh, thank you.
The fabulous hair that everyone talks about.
Yes. Well, in the class, you always talk about branding. Like, people have to know you for something. And what? I'm known by the hair. I'll own it. I'll take it.
Yep. Take it and run with it. It's great.
So in the class, we're talking about the differences between auctions. Like, there's so many different types of auctions that are out there, and fundraising events,
right?
But then also the difference between auctioneers and fundraising auctioneers.
People who fill the role of selling something, who might not be an auctioneer.
Okay.
So there's a whole spectrum, right? From the board president who wants his 15 minutes of fame, who wants to sell the live auction things, because maybe one of the items is something he donated and he really wants to, make sure he's up there talking about it because nobody else could do it right. And then what was supposed to be 15 minutes turns into 35 minutes of the Steve, Anderson show.
And it's the wah, 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 wah. It's
Absolutely.
like having a leaf blower
in the background.
In the background. Hold on. We'll let them roll by here real quick, and they're almost done.
And so the auctioneers, someone who falls into that selling the things on stage role, might be a volunteer, might be the newscaster, might be the weather person, might be someone who's usually an MC, might be someone who even has stage presence as an actor, might even be a performer. That doesn't make them a fundraising auctioneer who has trained background in fundraising techniques and what we always call auction psychology.
Yes. Yeah. And knowing how to ask and knowing when to ask and knowing when to say when and like kind of
call it and cut it off when it's actually stopped. But auction psychology is more than that. It's reading body language and watching people's hands twitch on the table because they're holding their bid card and we know they're getting ready to pick it up.
Right.
It's watching side conversations where they're deciding whether or not they're getting ready to bid again. It's when you're asking for the next level, and it's the negotiation you can see that's happening at the table that an MC just simply wouldn't know to look for because they haven't seen it before. They haven't been on stage doing all those things.
Yeah, and there are many MCs that, again, like you say, board member, newscaster, celebrity, and whatnot, and they're really good at reading scripts.
Right.
They can handle it. They can do a very simple MC role. This is so and so. This is they're coming up next. Thank you so and so. Congratulations. Move on to the next, and keep the program going.
For sure. But there's a tremendous difference between just keeping the program going and reading something that's been prepared for you and improving and having to react in real time to what's happening and roll with the punches and not get flustered when there aren't bids happening and know when to go back to a mission moment to remind people that it's not about what you get, it's about what you give, or to come back in and throw in additional information that you researched on your own about that stay in Hawaii or that home that the family owns. Your MC, your board volunteer, your weather person is not going to do that.
No. And then like what happens if something arises? Maybe there's a drunk heckler in the audience. Maybe the slideshow stops working.
The sound system. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes.
So many things.
So many things.
And to have that auctioneer as the problem solver, because there's been lots of times, I know it's happened to me, where whether it's the executive director or the development director runs up before the ballroom doors open and be like, Bobby, we just found out X.
Yes.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Do?
Yep.
Yeah.
I just was on stage probably a month ago, and in the middle of the auction, somebody ran on stage, up the stairs, onto the stage, into my ear to tell me some information that just got added to this package live while we're selling it, trying to, but it was important information, and it was she just found it out, at that moment and thought it was necessary for me to have, which it was.
So what'd you do?
Right. And so then took it and added it into what we were talking about and increased the bid another couple $1,000s, right?
All right.
So, yeah, but that could fluster someone who didn't realize that was even a possibility that could happen, and it's not going to come out as smoothly or as polished. You're hiring a professional because you want someone who can roll with the punches and make everything seem like it's smooth and polished, even when what's the thing about the duck when you're floating on the top and you're paddling, underneath?
Yeah, like hell underneath. And,
yes.
They look all that calm, and that's what is great about events or great about working with a professional. It is that forward-facing production, that forward-facing program that the donors are seeing happen.
For sure.
It's their experience that they're within.
Right.
But there's a lot of crazy shit that's happening in the background.
For sure.
I don't know if that's going on.
And, you always want to, fundraising auctioneers have helped to set up the timeline. And so we're mindful of what, the 3 minutes per auction item that we're trying to stay on. Whereas somebody who's a newscaster or weather person or a DJ or a celebrity, isn't thinking about all those things simultaneously, about how many minutes we're trying to stick to, about where we are in the timeline. Oh, we started 7 minutes late because of dinner service. So now are we going to make that up? And should it be even a good goal to make that up? Or should we still be giving, that extra time to the auction? Because the auction is the fundraising and the fund and need is the fundraising and it deserves the time, even if we do run 7 minutes late, right? Yeah. So all of those things are happening simultaneously for someone who does this as a career and would overwhelm or can easily overwhelm someone who doesn't have that same background.
Right. I actually had a conversation with a potential client today, and she talked about how the auctioneer last year was moving through the auction so fast, it was just like a checkbox.
Right.
Like auction item, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, sold. And then, okay, next item, blah, 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 sold. And they weren't a professional.
Right.
And left a lot of money on the table.
Absolutely. So, we call that efficiency auctioneering or a liquidation auctioneer. And someone whose job it is to work in the greater auction industry, who has the title legitimately of auctioneer, their job is to liquidate things.
Yeah.
That is what auctioneering is selling items. But benefit auctions are not that. We say that benefit auctioneers are equal parts marketer of the auction items, ambassador for the fund in need, and entertainer for the people who just aren't able to participate in the bidding at that level.
Right.
And that's totally different than an efficiency auctioneer whose job is just to check those boxes and get those things sold.
Right. And then that's that transactional model.
Absolutely.
It's stuff. They're selling stuff to people, whereas we're selling...
Even if we're selling experiences, even if we're selling stuff, we're making that sales process into an experience, because we're talking about the emotional aspects of it. And we talk about sell the sizzle and not the steak. We're not just doing the logical nuts and bolts of it. We're talking about imagine if, picture yourself all of those things that add to the essence of that package and make it more desirable. I mean, part of being a fundraising auctioneer is creating the desire for that item that's much more than just reading the title of it and reading one sentence.
Right. And I mean, it's the value of that item, the full experience, the sizzle, all of that, and then also the combination of the inspiration of the mission.
What it means.
And the impact of what that sales of that particular item can help with this particular organization. And I think that's where I see great fundraising auctioneers able to make that connection and help the light bulb go off in the donor's head. Like, you know what, friends, we're at the $10,000 level. We're like, we can sell this for $10,000. If we get to 10 grand, that's another wish we can grant here tonight.
Absolutely.
So then the particular bidder who's already the high bidder at like 8,500, it's like, okay, I'll go 10 grand.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. I often say something like, you could just go up to the $5,000 right now and we might knock that person out. Wouldn't that be great if we sold this first item for at least $5,000?
Right.
But there's so many techniques that we end up using because we've learned them over time and put them in practice for different events that, again, that free auctioneer, that volunteer, that person is just not going to know. And even an auctioneer who works in another field of auctioneering isn't going to know. Right. They won't have gone to the websites, done their own research, written 12-page scripts that you've then basically memorized. Yeah. They're reading off of a sheet of paper that got handed to them and liquidating that item. And that's the last thing you want to happen. One of the things we talk about is we understand that you only have this one night once a year. And when you think about it that way, every nonprofit gala is one night once a year. Yeah. Everything's riding on how well that goes. And that's your fundraising budget for, the year in many cases.
Yeah. And for many organizations, especially small organizations, like that's big dollars on their bottom line.
Absolutely.
And are they willing to risk that?
Right.
With someone that is not a professional. Correct. Or I hate to say guarantee, but ensure the best situation, the best
possible outcome for those. And auctions are always dependent upon the people in the room at that moment. So we can't guarantee you that this item is going to bring $3,500 because it depends on the best presentation that we can make of that item. But it also depends on the people that are in the room and the butts and seats. They have to have, we call it both the means and the intention to support the cause. You can have a lot of wealthy people in the room, but if they don't have the intention to support your cause, then that doesn't mean their paddles are going up.
Right. Or they might have the most intention, like love the organization.
Absolutely.
But might not have the means
to play at that level.
Right.
But that's what a fund in need is for, of course, is that we can find a level for everybody to participate. So another phrase we often use is that you need people in your audience who can both attend and spend. People who say my ticket is my donation don't really understand that this is a fundraiser. It's a question that we ask of people all the time. Are you having a party that happens to have fundraising in it, or are you having a fundraiser that's fun like a party? And Bobby and I and other professional fundraising auctioneers help people to do professional fundraisers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And everybody's scared of that F word.
Right.
Fundraising, especially with galas. Like, no, you need to tell the world like this.
This is a fundraiser.
And we will be asking for money.
And you can make the ticket price leave some people out. And that's the point, is because if we want people who can both attend and spend and support you once they come in the door.
Right. And having a professional that's up there, because when you're doing the auction, everybody in the audience is bidding, right?
we talk about this all the time
because everybody's like, yeah, we want to buy. No,
right. In the fund to need, they may be all with every card in the air, but when you think about an audience of 300 people and 10 live auction items, there's possibly 10 winners for those 10 live auction items, and maybe there's 20 bidders on those 10 live auction items. Maybe there's 25, but maybe there's 15 because there's just a core that's really supporting that. It doesn't mean that everybody isn't supporting the group. It's that not everybody has the means and the intention. And so we want to entertain the rest of the people as much as possible. It's something else that the, volunteer auctioneer or the weatherman, no one's ever asked him to entertain a crowd of 300 people, live and improv.
We need you to tap dance for 20 minutes.
Exactly.
And talk fast and entertain and
while
sell.
Getting top dollar. While not forgetting a lot of key components and adding in the 10 things they told you since you came in the door, all those things.
Don't tell bad jokes.
Exactly. And, that's what happens. We see it and we hear the horror stories about someone who wasn't a professional auctioneer who gets up there and says, now come on, you should be bidding some more. I know you've got money in this room. Aren't you a table full of doctors? And just, flip the tone and crash the tone of the event because they felt that pressure of maybe, expecting that it was going to sell for higher. Well, we've got techniques in our back pocket about what to do in those cases. That is, again, part of that auction psychology, part of knowing that, how to read a room and what to do next.
And what to say at the right time.
Right. And actually even when to change increments and, go from asking at $1,000 and, $1,000 and now $2,000 and $3,000 and $4,000 to $500 to $250 or maybe even $100, depending on reading the room. You don't want it to go too long.
Yep.
So where do you cut it off? All those are decisions we're making on the fly, seconds after seconds after seconds. That is just not something that a layperson can easily do or do.
Or even conceptualize.
Right. For that matter. Yeah.
Yeah, that happens. And there's like Aaron and I call it the spidey sense.
Okay.
Is we can like you read the individual that's bidding. You're like, okay, what can I say to this person? They're like at the maybe point. Mm-hmm. What can I say to them to encourage them to give again?
Right.
And it's putting ourselves in their seats. Like what would are they more interested in the item? Are they more interested in everybody looking at them? Mm-hmm. Or are they more interested in the mission?
Right.
And what are they responding to? Mm-hmm. And the conversation you're having with one bidder can be
totally different
than the other bidder.
Yeah.
And being able to flip-flop back and forth.
Yeah. And read it, figure out what it is that's their motivation. And we can't always do it, but we can certainly do it more than, this layperson who wouldn't have even thought that was a thing.
And I know there's so many that are watching right now and they're like, what? I never thought of this. I never considered that. I never thought that was a thing. And that's why we're doing what we're doing here, Jenelle, with this podcast and this show is to show nonprofits that there are better ways to do this.
For sure.
Because I go to a lot of networking events, and when you're at a networking event and you tell someone that you're a fundraising auctioneer and then like, what do they say?
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Or if it's a nonprofit professional and you're like, oh, I'm an auctioneer, I help with galas. Like, what's their next response?
Can you help my gala? Is usually the next one. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, we're looking for someone like you. We need your help.
Right. Or they roll their eyes and they're like, oh, I hate special events.
Right.
Or I hate auctions or something.
Right.
Like
that. Because they've had a bad experience with someone who wasn't a fundraising professional. Right. And that's how we get to work with new organizations and help bring them along to the next level, is that they've had a not ideal experience with someone else. And when they meet us and we have a conversation about what didn't work, we're able to say, you know what, I know like 3 different solutions for that. Let me share with you what those options will be, and we can figure out what's the right one for you. But, that's the other thing about working with a fundraising professional who has training in fundraising and they do their continuing education, is that they've got multiple solutions for any challenge.
Yeah, anything comes up, it's like, okay, here we can do plan A, plan B, plan C in so many different elements and different spaces that are, that are there.
Right.
And I think that's what's really interesting is nonprofits have really settled for crappy, like saying like it's okay for our event to suck.
Well, the only reason is because they didn't know they had a choice.
Exactly.
Right.
We're telling you right now. You have a choice.
Right. There are professionals out there. Yeah, there are professionals out there. Absolutely. And it. I was going to say it starts with Googling, but Googling, you're just going to get auctioneers' names. It's everything. Finding someone through social media or through marketing and a web search, but then asking for references, looking at Google reviews, getting a chance to see them in person, having a conversation. You can tell a lot in a conversation from someone's energy and whether or not they'd be a good fit. So, I get lots of events just over a phone call because in our conversation of 20 minutes, I've just solved 5 things for them, and it's not an experience they've had before.
Right. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, wow, we've never thought of that. And maybe they hire you, maybe they retain you as their consultant and their auctioneer. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just take the ideas and apply them themselves.
Totally fine. Yeah.
We want to help any way we can.
Absolutely. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And if it's either working with us directly or as us, because we've got a great network. I mean, now there's 10 brand new, auctioneers that are out there in the world that are going to be able to fit particular events.
Right.
We can make those connections.
For sure. And, we as fundraising professionals want to help every event that's at every stage. So maybe you're not ready to hire a professional auctioneer. You don't have the budget. You don't have, your event doesn't have that kind of following, that number of people. They're not raising that much money. But we can do a custom seminar for you to help you figure out what's your next step to grow. We can help you understand how to do auction asks in the community, how to find sponsors, how to develop an audience, how to do your social media marketing. There's just all kinds of things that a fundraising professional can help a nonprofit with, even if we're not talking about a black tie gala.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I love is applying any of these solutions or any of these ideas. And I love to see the light bulb go off. Oh, we never thought of that, or we didn't do that. And then the next year, even if they worked with us or they didn't, but they were like, we did that and it changed things significantly.
For sure.
And they're like, okay, give me more. Give me more.
And what's so fun about this class that we just finished, this boot camp class, is that I can take people who've been doing fundraising for 6 or 8 years and time and time again have them say, I can't believe I never thought of that. I can't believe I've never done that. Right. And so we can come up with fresh ways for even experienced professionals to be invigorated again about their jobs.
It's fun to watch the inspiration come out of them. I mean, for me, I've been doing this a long time, and I took the class 10 years ago, and now here I am back auditing this. I have some team members that are in here, and to feel their energy and their optimism
and excitement,
and then also reminding me of some things that I maybe kind of forgot about, or like I wasn't ready to apply to the business yet.
Right.
So now I'm seeing that, I'm excited. I've got all these notes. I'm like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. It's that recharging to be able to get out there into the world now and help more. And that's again why we do what we do.
You mentioned that you were auditing this class after 10 years. There was somebody else that was auditing after many years, probably almost the same, probably 8 years. And he was here for half a day and took 2 pages of notes. Yeah. And that's terrific, right? That gets everybody just rejuvenated. And we're, in our summer break right now and getting ready to head into fall season. And so it's a great time to be jazzed up again.
Totally. So then the question that always comes from the nonprofits, they're like, how much? And they're like,
funny.
And they're like, why? Or like, we have the free guy. Like we're a nonprofit, and we want to try to get everything for free because it's all about our bottom line. And anything, and this is direct quote from client, anything that takes away from our budget is not going to programs. How do you respond to that?
Well, I mean, if you spent $3,500 and you made $3,500, you're even, right? So anything above that is bonus. If you spent $3,500 and make $135,000, you're ahead a long way.
A long way.
If you spent $5,000 and you made $25,000, you're still super far ahead than you would have been without. And that's what you're actually weighing is what's the return on your investment. Right. It is an investment. And if you don't want to invest in your fundraiser, why would your audience want to invest in your fundraiser? Right. I mean, you do have to spend money to make money, and you're spending money on a quality product. Think about how much, and I'm sure this has been covered on your podcast, people spend on the band, and they spend on the menu, and they spend on the decorations and the centerpieces, and yet the only part that's making money is the auctioneer that you've handed the microphone to. You know, you have to think about the auctioneer who's doing the special appeal and the live auction is on the microphone more than anybody else in the entire event. They're the face of that event. You're making an investment in how the fundraising is going to go that night.
And you're taking a risk of whomever that individual is on there, capitalizing the majority of the attention and the time on the stage. I would say, as smart business people, you have to mitigate that risk.
For sure. And you're getting the person, again, that you think represents, has the right energy, the right ambassadorship. They're going to deliver your mission message well. And that's generally not going to be the free guy, because the free guy's not invested in it in the same way that someone who it's their career. It's what they do full time.
It's the reputation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like,
and it's their passion. I mean, we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't the best job in the world. When people ask me about my job, I say I have the best job in the world, raise money and give it away.
I love it. And
couldn't be better.
And we could have gone down the commercial auction road. I mean, we could have each been
real estate auctions for sure.
Or we could have done liquidation auctions or whatever, and made a lot of money, and then be philanthropists ourselves and be able to give money directly to the nonprofits. But I'm more of the school to be able to teach to fish instead of handing the fish.
Absolutely. And the way that I look at it, as I have a teaching degree from my previous life before this, and if I can teach nonprofits best practices, then it influences every event that they'll ever work with in the future. Yes. And so if they change and go to another nonprofit, or they move up in their position, they've learned best practices from what we did. And that kind of rolls over into this boot camp class. If I can train auctioneers in best practices, it will change every event that they ever have. Right. And that ripple effect is really cool. And we've been doing this boot camp class since 2008. Yeah. So there's been hundreds of auctioneers that we've been able to change.
Well, and then the hundreds of auctioneers that come through this, but then also the hundreds of events, each one of those. So now we're talking like thousands of events.
Absolutely.
And then to even I can't even really conceptualize the amount of dollars that have been improved. I mean, it's have to be in the billions now.
Yeah, and that's what's so very cool about it. And every person impacts every auction, and then everyone who's been impacted by that auction takes that with them to the next auction they work on. Yeah, it's really great spiderweb effect.
It's neat. I visualized this the other day while I was in yoga. Is you have a calm lake, and we always talk about throwing the stone in the lake, and then the ripples that go from that. Mm-hmm. Well, what we're doing here is we have this giant lake, but now it's a rainstorm, where all of these drops are falling into, and all of these separate ripples are now going in in
all their different directions,
and they're all intersecting together, affecting themselves. And I know this is big woo-woo kind of thinking, but that's what's happening. And even by you all listening and watching and hopefully gleaming some information from this that you're able to apply to your nonprofit, and whether you have never used a professional before and then you decide, okay, let's take the risk, let's do that, or let's take some ideas and some tips and apply that, and then that makes an impact. The ripples are going to be bigger. The rocks and the raindrops are going to be that much bigger and make a bigger impact all the way through. And I would rather just drop a giant boulder in. That's me. That's my style. Let's just drop the boulder in and just make all the water go away. But there's some that do have to kind of sprinkle a little bit.
For sure, right. And we want you to find the fundraising auctioneer that's the right match for where you are right now. Right. It's not that a top tier headliner auctioneer can't work your smaller event, but that you might not want to make that investment at this time. Right. But there is somebody who's great for you, who's talented, and who will take on your mission and be a good ambassador for it, and be the right person for that time. And, Bobby and I and Aaron and everybody else who's been on the podcast, any of us would be willing to help any nonprofit figure out who's a good match for them.
That's a big thing that Aaron really speaks about, is finding the right match, and not only budgetary or experience wise, but then also demographically as well. I mean, there's a lot of different organizations out there that are serving a very diverse population. Right. And there's a very diverse population of auctioneers that many people don't even know about.
Right.
Like we had an auctioneer that was in here, female auctioneer, but also bilingual.
Awesome. Wonderful. And there aren't that many of them. And so when you get one, grab that unicorn, could be great for your organization and make your gala stand out from others, make your fundraiser unique. And we're always talking about how when there's 5 events on a Saturday, how do you make people choose your event and what makes your event special? Right. And that's one of the things that could be really noteworthy to people and cause a lot of buzz, either for PR or even afterwards.
And I think where the donor, from the donor standpoint, sitting in the audience, they're the ones that are having that experience, and for them to feel valued, or their experience to feel valued, because the nonprofit made that investment in someone that's going to make that experience better.
Absolutely.
That's going to tie, to that donor who has the affinity for the organization.
Right. We talk about serving the audience that's in front of you, and that makes a big difference. That volunteer, that traditional auctioneer who doesn't have the fundraising training, is not thinking in terms of serving the audience in front of them. They're thinking about liquidating the items. Right. And we talk about this with chant, and that there's a type of chant that's good for contests,
right? And
then there's a completely different delivery for audiences that don't have that ear that's used to listening to auction chants. I tell people I don't chant, I flirt with the audience for money.
Okay, so let's give an example. As a world champion auto auctioneer, this used to be my life. Was the commercial, and it would be like, and 25 $6 and 7 7 20 20 29 29 29 3 31 32 33 34 34 34 35 35 sold 34 next car. That's the commercial auction chant.
Right.
So now the Gala Gal flirt with the auction. Give us a little taste of that.
Yeah, I don't have anybody in front of me to flirt with because Bobby's taken. So
it's flirting. It's not going any further than that.
It is flirting. That's true. But honestly, I just do. We're at 2,500, and now would you go 2,750? And nod with me if 2,750 sounds good. Don't you think that'd be great? And now it's your turn. 3,000 back to you. It's like tennis. It's your turn, and now we're back to you for 3,250. And it's that pace. It's much slower. I'm nodding people in. I'm making little jokes in between. I'm telling them, this side of the room you can play too, just raise your card and get my attention. I'm doing everything I can to be inclusive and warm and gentle with the audience, whereas traditional auctioneers don't have to be gentle with their audiences, because
sometimes they're very
absolutely, because they're being efficient, right. And we don't want efficiency inside of we don't want to drag it out, but we also don't want just the purpose is only to sell it. At a benefit auction that we're doing and that we're doing for you, it's about so much more than just selling the item.
It is so much more, and that's something that we are harping on very very strongly. Is so you have the commercial auctioneer or the free auctioneer or whatever, and sometimes we'll take that item and the opportunity where they have the microphone and can be very aggressive, or could be I hear guilt-ridden sometimes, in which guilting that bidder to bid again. And when that happens, okay, sure, I'll make the $5,000. Doctor, we know you've got the money.
Exactly.
They'll make the bid. But then what's the aftermath?
Don't feel great about it. Yep. And we want everybody to feel great about giving. We say it's not about what you get, it's about what you give. And we want everybody in the room to feel great about being part of the mission and adding to that grand total and that kind of thing. There's a lot of people can misspeak when they get put on the spot and aren't prepared to handle any things that get thrown at them.
It's not fun, but it's interesting to watch. Even non-professionals that even at the galas that we do, they're up there trying to be impromptu. They're trying to be funny. They're trying to say the first thing that comes to their mind, and sometimes it's not fully thought out.
Correct. Sometimes it's the bad joke or the
we call it the record scratch.
Yeah, there's some of that too. Yeah. And we don't see that often. We hear about it when nonprofits call us because that happened last year, and we hear about the bad thing that happened.
Oh, I hear that. Right. I had another call this morning, and we were talking about the PASD. the post-auctioneer stress disorder. It is where like they've been abused by, whether it's the auctioneer with the development team, the event planning team, and whatnot, and being very direct and being like, you have to do it my way or it's the highway, or even the auctioneer that is very abusive of the audience.
Right.
That, I mean, I don't even want to use the term auctioneer. They're the person with the microphone that should not be in that place.
Right. And that's funny. We talk about auctioneer. Not everybody who has the microphone is an auctioneer, even though we put them, peg into a hole and we call them an auctioneer.
Right.
And a lot of times that volunteer auctioneer definitely doesn't even have any background to fall under that term.
But I saw a YouTube video one time.
Exactly.
God, Junior Staggs, I see him on TikTok all the time, and he talks real fast, and I learned how to do that, so just let me do it, right?
Right. Yep. 15 minutes of fame. So.
Yes, and it's unfortunate to see and hear when that happens, and what I want to share with the audience is it's okay to reach out, have a conversation, and see what else is out there. You don't have to settle for mediocrity anymore.
Right.
You don't have to settle for terrible. You don't have to roll your eyes at the,
You don't have to hate live auctions.
Yeah, and special events.
Or special events at all. You're right. Yeah. There's somebody out there who's going to bring joy to your event. And there's a working partnership with, you guys or with me or with any of the 150 people that we know that are really terrific, that it's going to bring joy to your event and to your relationship.
Yeah, it's that joy that really ties to that brand, that hopefulness, that collective spark or that collective magic that happens when a community comes together to accomplish something really great.
The last event that I did was just a couple weeks ago at the end of my spring season, because of course it becomes quieter now over the summer, and we raised more than twice what we had raised in the past. And one of the gentlemen I've worked with for 3 years, he's like, "You're always great, but tonight you were stupendous." And I thought stupendous was a great word.
That's a good word.
I had never gotten before. So
I love that.
And that's because, the room was great and the bidding was great and the support for the special appeal was great. We were surprised by a bunch of money that we didn't know was in the room. So that's always a great bonus.
Joyful.
And that means that they've been compelled by the mission message to step up and give money. We didn't even know we had, one gift at a certain level, and then it turned out we had 4. And it was terrific, right?
It's like finding money.
Yeah, it is. It's really fun.
And we don't say these things to try to toot our own horn.
Right.
It's the combination of all the teams that work together on this. This is your committee. This is your board. This is your development team. This is your events team. This is everybody.
The production company. Yeah.
The production team, the caterer, the venue, everything.
Yep, everything works.
Working together. And when everybody works in that like symphony, that's where that beautiful music happens. And we are very fortunate to be the conductor of such that now the donors are having that great experience. And they're like, "Oh, thank you. They'll thank us. They're like, for what you did, that was great." You're like, "Well, no, thank you."
Right. Yep. Yes, absolutely. We're always in the position of saying, "No, thank you. It was all you. It was all the audience." Our job is to, we're just the conduit. We're just, facilitating the transfer of donations from the audience to the nonprofit.
Yeah, we're the connector.
So, yeah.
Awesome. All right, so let's give a tip to the friends that are listening here. Now, if they are making the decision that like we have to find an auctioneer in whether it's in their market or wherever, we need to find that one auctioneer. Like what could they do to start the search today?
Well, I mean, you Google fundraising auctioneer or benefit auctioneer. Okay. You start there. You find somebody who, somebody who comes up and you call and have a conversation with them. Even if it's what should I look for? Right. Even if it's, what qualities should I look for in a fundraising auctioneer? Right. That's something good for you to know. There's also some seminars out there that talk about, hiring a fundraising professional and whatever. But I want to kind of reiterate that anybody who sees this can reach out to you or me.
Absolutely.
And whatever part of the country you're in or whatever. We're part of a national network of 1,400 people who do fundraisers across the country. We can find you somebody who's great.
Right. I love when groups will have found me through word of mouth. It's like somebody knows somebody that knows somebody. It's like, I talked to so and so that saw you at this and this and this and this, and they said to call you. And then now we're having the conversation, helping them however that might be. So my tip is you have network within your nonprofit world, ask like your AFP group or your ADO group or whatever it is be like, who do you find as an auctioneer that's really good, that you enjoy?
And actually, you could call the big events in your area and just ask them who they use.
Really?
Because those big events probably do have a budget and probably are invested with a fundraising professional, and probably would be flattered by the call.
Right.
You're one of the headliner galas in Phoenix. We're curious who you use as an auctioneer. We're looking for someone great.
Right. And then that conversation then happens, and they'll call me, they'll call you, they'll call somebody else. And maybe we're booked, maybe we're not.
Absolutely.
But at least it's more information that you would have than just guessing.
Right. And most any auctioneer, I field a lot of calls for groups that I'm either booked for or am not the right match for, or whatever, but we turn around immediately and we'll find the next step, right? The next person to refer to. Yeah. I tell people all the time, if that doesn't work out, get back to me. Right. I'll, connect
find somebody else.
Yep. We'll keep working on it for you. So I think most every auction professional that we know would do that for an inquiry that we got.
Absolutely. And if we can help any way we can, that's
absolutely.
Yep. Okay. So now, on the flip side of that, there's some individuals that might be watching this that are thinking that they might have a skill set or be interested in being a fundraising auctioneer or fundraising MC. If they're interested, like, how would someone even get started?
That's a really good question. The funny thing that I'm going to say is Toastmasters and public speaking skills is a great way to start. Yeah. You have to become comfortable speaking in front of people and thinking on your feet. Right. And a good progression would be Toastmasters, public speaking, and then improv training.
Yes.
All those things could really help to strengthen someone's skills. And of course, all along, following your favorite nonprofits, figuring out what causes that really resonate with you, because that's where you want to start in reaching out to a nonprofit, and with your enthusiasm and your stage skills then. And then, we want to talk about how much you want to chant, and Bobby and I are going to disagree about how much you want to chant, but you can go to auction school.
Yes,
you don't have to.
There's lots of auction schools out there. There's auctioneer coaches.
There's auctioneer coaches. Absolutely. And so you can, if you go to auction school, they're going to teach you how to chant, and then you can choose to develop that with a coach further, or you can choose to modify that in a way that works for you and feels natural for you and that kind of thing.
But I will agree with you that a fundraising auctioneer doesn't need to have the most beautiful auctioneer chant in the world. You can compare the styles that both of us have, and yours definitely was very soft and very, very fun, and very, like you said, you're flirty a little bit.
Warm. Yeah. We have totally different styles, but that means we get hired for totally different events, which is great.
Yeah. And there is so many different events that are out there in the world.
Yeah.
That's out there.
And the most ironic thing about that is when we step off stage, and all of us, it happens to all of us who are really good, is that every time somebody comes up and says,
"You're the best auctioneer I've ever seen."
You're the best auctioneer I've ever seen. And it doesn't matter. It happens to all of us, which is, it's the auctioneer in front of you is the best auctioneer you've ever seen. And if that's not happening, you have the wrong auctioneer.
That's right. That's right. And my tip for anybody that's interested in this is, especially like in their market, same way that you would go out and Google search fundraising auctioneer as a nonprofit, do that as, as an up and coming fundraiser, as an auctioneer, or as a motivator or somebody like that. And just reach out. Like, I've had people reach out to me, say, I like what you're doing. I've been seeing you on Instagram or Facebook, or watching things like this, and like I would like to try that.
I think I could do that.
I think I could do
and it
that,
always comes across a little soft because they're not quite sure, but they're like, I think I could do that.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's funny because we can tell almost instantly whether or not someone naturally is going to have that gift to get up in front of people.
Right. And that's like one thing that I love is helping to develop and foster that talent within individuals. And there's a certain level of ingredients that if they have,
it's true.
Maybe some performance experience, maybe some their musicians experience. Maybe they are really good in sales.
But it's fearlessness also.
Yeah.
It is the ability to be in front of 300 or 500 or 700 people. And that might not be something that we have on a day-to-day basis, but from the standing at the edge of the stage, you might be quite nervous about getting ready to go on the stage, but from the second your foot hits the stage, it's a snap and a transformation, and it's showtime, right?
Do you get nervous?
That's what I joke about Gala Gal, is that Gala Gal is just a superhero costume that I put on and go and be Gala Gal on stage, and that, outside of that, I am actually an introvert, and I just play an extrovert in my job.
Yeah, and like you said, you put on the superhero costume.
Mm-hmm.
So do you get nervous before you step on stage?
Most of the time, and not crazy nervous, but events that I know are going to be challenging, that either have huge goals or that have some major consignment packages that are going to have some big
high profile individuals that are in there.
Yeah, some big leaps to get over, some things that are more stressful than in other events. I'm not shaking or anything like that, but I'm definitely like rehearsing in my head all the things that I've been
there. I've watched you do that.
All the balls you have to keep in the air and all the things you have to be thinking of and that kind of thing. And and I will, practice in my head, and other people are just like, they can do 20, you probably can do 27 things before you go on the stage, but I'm much more like game day is game day, and I'm,
very focused.
I'm very focused. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'll take those few moments before and, prep and get the blood flowing and get the, that going. And yes, I'm behind the scenes doing a lot of consultations and whatnot, but once it's showtime, like, it's okay. I need to be here, get in my head, get the words, situated, get that focus on, this is what we're here to do.
Right.
This is the mission of the organization, and this is what we're going to make happen tonight.
And we're 100% in the moment. Yeah. A funny thing about being nervous is that the most nervous I ever was before a virtual event. And it seems like that would not be true. And it was because we were getting ready to go live on camera with the teleprompter, and the teleprompter part is the part that we're not used to.
It's so hard,
I'm used to being able to just talk freely, and it was going to run on a teleprompter, and I had to make that seem natural, and that was just going to be the hardest thing forever. And it was fine. It turned out great, but didn't feel like it when I was standing there thinking,
But it's because you want to do a good job, and you take your profession, your passion in life very seriously.
Right.
And you want to do a good job for the nonprofit, and you want to,
we only get one night once a year, right?
That's right.
So, when it's live, then, if it's taped and we're going to tape a segment, that's great. We can do it a couple times. But when it was live in those virtual events, you couldn't improv, or at least for that particular event, I couldn't improv in the way that I normally would be able to.
But now being back on stages, how does that feel?
Absolutely. Yeah. Everybody's happy to be back on stage in front of people.
So much. Yeah. It's so good to be able to go around and do those things.
Yep. See facial expressions, but now we're back to auction psychology.
Yep. There you go. Spin back around.
Reading people's facial expressions and getting proximity to them, but not too close, because can't be COVID close.
Right.
You got to be just the right degree from people. But all those things play in.
Right on. Well, good. Well, if you are an aspiring auctioneer, I definitely suggest look out the Benefit Auction BOOTCAMP as an opportunity to come in and learn.
BOOTCAMP for Benefit Auctioneers.
So many great just knowledge that comes out of this, and then being able to be a part of a network of individuals that this is what they do. And you might be day one just completely fresh, completely green, not knowing a dang thing, and then after 3 days of being in this boot camp, then you'll know 1,000 times more than what you didn't know before that.
Yep. It is a transformational experience, and I can say that only because hundreds of people have told me that on their exit surveys, that I have a different business today than I had 48 hours ago.
Jenelle, I can tell you this 100% proof that it has transformed my life completely. Where I thought I was going to be 10 years ago to where I am now today.
Yeah.
To be able to find, have you ever heard the term ikigai? Ikigai. It's a Japanese term, which is the combination of something that you're really good at doing, something that does good for the community, and something that you can get paid to do.
Okay.
That you can support your life on. It's the connection of that is what they call the ikigai.
The Venn diagram of the overlap of those three things.
That's it.
That's great.
Yeah. So when you Google that, when you get home and you'll see it, you'll be like, oh, that's what it is. And you helped me to identify that and to say, this is the focus that I am having in life. So 100% transformational and
awesome.
Yeah, it feels really good. So thank you. I can never thank you enough for that.
My pleasure to help.
All right.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, friends, if you do want to reach out to Jenelle, the Gala Gal, how can they find you?
So galagal.com, GALAGAL. My email's info@galagal.com, and that's the easiest way to get me.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Google.
Yep.
It's the easiest. Yeah. So now, okay, so Gala.
Yes.
Gala. What's the
Isn't
difference?
that funny?
What's the difference?
Snobbiness.
Really? Which one's more fancy?
Not going to say.
They get to decide.
Yeah, no, I just always liked Gala Gal for the differential.
Right.
Because Gala Gal felt like it ran together as some foreign word. And Gala Gal just sounded more.
So you help to produce galas.
I do fundraising galas. There are galas in Florida, but I do galas.
Nice. I love it. So good. So good. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with me. Thank you again for
having me.
educating so many that were in this class and everybody that's watching and everything.
Yep. It was great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, good. Well, thank to you that are all out there making an impact in the world, they're wanting to do events better, or maybe wanting to be an auctioneer.
Right. Maybe wanted to become Bobby D.
Maybe. Hey, we're here to help. But thank you so much for taking the time, investing it with us, and being a part of Heart of the Gala. However it is. Anyways, thank you again for watching. Hit that like button. Please rate us on iTunes. You can find us on Spotify. Share this with anybody that you think might find it valuable, because that's again, those connections, those raindrops in the lake.
Yep.
Everybody coming across.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time. Keep being awesome.